Well, it's time to use the word. 200,000 Americans are dead. What Trump is doing is genocide. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Anthony Fauci was, this is not the first time he said it. He said it many, many times that as the weather gets colder here in the Northern Hemisphere, people are going to go indoors. And the CDC had this recommendation on their website for a couple days until somebody wrote about it in the Washington Post. And then apparently it came to the attention of the political people at the CDC who said, okay, get rid of that right now. But what they had on their website was basically the World Health Organization's consensus of over 200 countries, of the scientists in all these countries, of how this virus spreads, which is that it is airborne. Now, the official position in the United States, until this was published, and now that it's been taken down, the official position is, well, yeah, maybe droplets. Like if you're talking to somebody and there's some spray coming out of your mouth, maybe that's how it's transmitted. But what the CDC said for a few days was, no, it's transmitted not by droplets, but by mist particles, individual particles that are so small that they can float in the air for up to an hour. That you could be 10 feet away from somebody, and if neither of you are wearing masks and you're in an enclosed area, odds are you're going to get infected. I mean, we've seen the studies from other countries. The South Korean study where the one person in the restaurant infected a bunch of other people. There was a similar study out of China. I think maybe it was out of Hong Kong. We have seen these. And, the Trump administration is choosing to downplay it. Donald Trump yesterday said, well, this virus affects virtually nobody. Apparently, virtually nobody means 200,000 Americans and their families who are mourning them right now, ranging in age from the elderly to infants. Apparently, Trump hasn't noticed the damage his lack of coronavirus response policy has done to our economy, and that millions of people have lost their jobs, and because they lost their jobs, they've lost their health care. And I mean, literally tens of millions of people are on the verge of eviction, homelessness, and disaster as we speak. Apparently, Donald Trump hasn't noticed how the coronavirus is affecting the Americans who are suffering. They call themselves long haulers. There are blogs popping up all over the place for them, support groups on Facebook, etc., because they're suffering long-term damage to their heart, to their lungs, to their brains, to their kidneys. I mean, pick an organ. Apparently, he hasn't noticed all the people who are at high risk of death and serious disability who are sheltering in place right now, including people with asthma, people with heart disease, people with diabetes, 40% of the American population that is diagnosably obese, and people over 50. I suspect that if you add all those people up, there are a solid majority of Americans who are at high risk for dying or getting very, very sick if they get this disease. Apparently, he hasn't noticed that countries that took this virus seriously have only a few dozen, or in some cases a few hundred deaths, while we're closing in today on 200,000 dead Americans. And, by Christmas, it'll be 250,000 dead. Excuse me. Apparently, he hasn't noticed that his herd immunity strategy didn't work well in countries like Brazil. And that if he continues with this herd immunity strategy, and that's openly and nakedly what they're doing, that means 6 million dead Americans. That's what he wants to hand off to the next president. Or if he continues to be president, when he turns himself into dictator, that'll be the story that will not be allowed in the news. Just like in some of the other right-wing countries. Apparently, he hasn't noticed that neither Taiwan nor Japan, great piece about Japan 2 days ago in the Wall Street Journal, they never shut down their economies. The Taiwan economy is scheduled to grow at 1.7% this year. They're back to normal. What did these two countries do that never shut down? It's the blunt force trauma instrument, or the blunt force instrument. What they did is they mandated masks. Everybody in the country must wear a mask all the time. Well, any time you could be exposing yourself to other people. And that if any, and widespread testing and contact tracing. The one thing he did notice, though, The one thing, Donald Trump clearly noticed, as did Jared Kushner, as did Mike Pence, as did the people on the task force, when they decided to stop the post office from mailing 5 masks to every American back in March, when they decided to stop the progress, moving the federal train, as it were, toward using the Defense Production Act to require the production of masks and personal protective equipment. We're back now to a shortage of N95 masks here in the United States. I mean, this is how insane it is. But apparently what they noticed back when they made those decisions was that this virus was disproportionately killing elderly Social Security voters. Keep in mind, Trump has promised to destroy Social Security within 3 years. And African Americans and Hispanic people and Native Americans, black and brown people. Apparently he's noticed that. And to that end, it seems that he's trying to spread this virus as far and wide as possible. Yes, let's infect as many Americans as possible. It doesn't kill as many white people, We should call this what history will call it when history looks back on this moment in the United States: genocide. That is the policy, that is the practice that the Trump administration is pursuing. An intentional, willful extermination of hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of Americans. If we do the herd mentality, or as Trump calls it, the herd immunity strategy, 6 million Americans. The willful, intentional death of millions of Americans who are being, apparently, according to this administration, sorted by race and age. It's not a big deal, Trump says in his rally yesterday. And Anthony Fauci this morning says, I'm in my 70s. It's a big deal to me. I mean, Trump was essentially saying, old people, to hell with them. Overweight people, to hell with them. People who have diabetes and heart disease, let them die. We gotta, Darwin, it's a good thing. You gotta strengthen the herd by weeding out the weak. African Americans, Hispanics, who are more likely to be on the front lines and face the probability of infection, who are less likely to have white-collar jobs where they can work from home and be remote, who are more likely to live in food deserts where what they're eating is actually contributing to things like diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. To hell with them. This is Trump's, quasi-official strategy. Or do you think that by calling this genocide that I've gone over the top?